This is Edge of the Box, a podcast brought to you by WhoScored.com.
Hello, welcome back to the Edge of the Box podcast, a podcast by WhoScored.com in association with BetVictor. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by WhoScored's very own Martin Lawrence and Jonathan Wilson, football expert, award-winning Jonathan Wilson, as we discussed last week. Two pieces of admin, well, actually not even admin, headline news to start off. Martin, our treble came in last week.
It did?
Scenes.
Exactly. It's at limbs as they say. Yeah. Injury time limbs. So, yeah, we had a 20-1 treble winner. Dan got in early. Callum Wilson, first goal scorer, very good tip. I nearly changed that to any time scorer, didn't I, Dan? So the odds would have been a lot lower.
You were actually quite cross with me for choosing first goal scorer, if I recall.
Well, I said that we needed to play it a bit more conservative because we hadn't had a winner in a while. You came in with first scorer rather than any time after I said that. But anyway, that landed. And then never in doubt, Jonathan, Liverpool and under 3.5 goals. Divock Origi, 94th minute winner. And Southampton, Brighton, both teams to score, 98th minute equaliser from Neil Maupay. So, yeah, 20-1 winner. So hopefully we can back it up this week.
Alex McCarthy was on that, wasn't he? He was definitely on it, 100%.
Well, he's out for a long time now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. They're in trouble. That'll come up in the Just a Minute section, Dan. Don't you worry.
Okay.
There's some interesting news there.
We should say that we hope Kasper Schmeichel gets well soon from his horrific thumb injury as well. Really hope he gets well soon. Second piece of headline news was that Jonathan and I were on the same show on TalkSport on Sunday, and Bardell was given headline billing over Wilson.
You're my warm act.
An enjoyable moment for me.
What time are you on?
11:45.
Yeah, they always put the big stars on at 45, don't they? So noon.
Noon is when the big dog's on. Okay.
If you've got a 5 in your time slot, okay.
I don't know how it works. I'm new to all this, Jonathan. But good to see us on the same show. Good to see that neither of us plugged Edge of the Box either. Great stuff. Right, the Champions League has been this week, so we're going to look at the top-rated Champions League teams. But before we do that, Jonathan, we want to know who has impressed and disappointed you the most in the group stage.
I didn't quite understand that question, whether you meant teams or players. So I thought I'd just slag off PSG.
Okay, fair.
I mean, it was always going to happen that you take a dysfunctional forward line and then you remove the one functioning bit of it and add another dysfunctional element. The Di Maria, I think there's a whole category of footballers, Di Maria and Cavani, probably the big two, and Benzema even as well, who are really good players who've spent their entire career carrying water for really annoying players and never quite getting the credit they deserve and never quite probably doing what they should have been able to achieve. So, I mean, PSG, it's this extraordinary paradox. You have three of the most exciting attacking players in the world, but by playing them, you have to play really scratchy, defensive, horrible football. And that seems to be something that I'm sure Pochettino's well aware of that, but people above him at PSG don't seem able to deal with. So, yeah, I thought PSG were incredibly lucky the game when they beat City. They really sort of stuttered in the games against Leipzig. And the game when they lost to City 2-1 could easily have been sort of 4 or 5-1. There's absolutely nothing in that side that suggests to me that PSG can win or any closer to winning the Champions League. In fact, I think they're further away from winning the Champions League than they were when they signed Messi.
Bayern Munich are the standout team in our ratings. They're the second favourites, I believe, behind Man City, whose rating is actually not poor, but they actually rank 7th of the teams in the tournament in our ratings. I think that's just down to the defence as much as anything. I think that's been overlooked a little bit. They didn't keep a single clean sheet in the group stage. Of the 16 teams to go through, only Sporting conceded more than Man City's 10 in 6 games. So that's definitely counted against them in our rating system. So they're the favourites, but they're the 7th top-rated team. So I'll run through it from 10 to 1. So it's Atalanta in 10th. Obviously, we don't know if they'll go through at the moment. They've still got to play Villarreal probably today, the time of recording.
It's this afternoon.
Yeah. So Atalanta are 10th. Then it's Lille, who deserve a mention, really. They've struggled a bit in the league to sort of back up their title-winning season under Jocelyn Gourvenek, but very, very good in the Champions League to come through a very competitive group, certainly the most competitive group. They're the 9th rated team. Then it's Juventus actually in 8th, Man City, PSG in 6th. Then it's Chelsea, Liverpool in 4th, Real Madrid 3rd, Ajax 2nd, who are probably the team that I would pick out as the one that's sort of most impressive so far, against expectations at least. And like I said, Bayern first. In terms of the odds, like I said, it's City, then Bayern, then Liverpool, then Chelsea and PSG tied. And then there's a big gap. If I was to look for value, I do think Real Madrid 16-1 as it stands, I think, with Bet Victor. That's a very, very long price. I know they're not what they once were, but Vinicius Junior's come to the fore playing really, really well.
Yeah,
Benzema's
really
still superb. The midfield, as much as they're aging, Toni Kroos still got a goal in him. Luka Modric is still very, very strong. Eden Militao's come on really well. So I think they look a really long price under a manager who's been there and done it in Ancelotti. So 16-1 on them. If you're looking at Man City at 10-3, Bayern 4-1. So yeah, they look a very long price to me.
Got to be honest, I fancy Liverpool, Jonathan. 6 from 6. I believe they're the first English team to ever win every single group game. That might be a terrible fact for me. That could be completely wrong, but I believe
that's true. That is true.
Great. It's true. Great fact. Wish I'd not preempted that might be wrong. But very, very impressive. Even going to Milan with a few players missing. 2-1 at Milan. That's a tough place to go. They've done very, very well.
Yeah, and I think it's not just that. I think it's that style of football, that very aggressive hard press that I guess we're used to now in the Premier League, but I think that still scares opponents who aren't used to that kind of style. I think you look at the likes of, that Barca-Bayern game last night, obviously Bayern-Barca game last night, and it was extraordinary how easy it was for Bayern playing at kind of half pace to tear through Barcelona. Barcelona just couldn't handle that. And trying to play the high line with Piqué and Longley just made no sense. But they can do that to an extent in La Liga because teams don't attack them. And you looked at that Bayern backline, how high that was, and you sort of think, well, sure, that's fine in the Bundesliga, and it's fine in the group stage. When I think, you mentioned City's defence not looking that impressive in the group stage. I think Bayern's was, you can't say it was worse because obviously they conceded fewer goals, but Benfica in the game in Munich exposed them. There was a vulnerability there, and I could see Liverpool, for instance, against Bayern, as they did a couple of years ago when they played them, absolutely tearing into that space and causing them lots of problems. I think that's it's a conscious gamble that Bayern take. When they won the Champions League, even in the final against PSG, the line was really, really high, and Mbappe had a couple of chances in that game that probably should have done better with. So I can see Liverpool against a team that's used to dominate its domestic league, playing with that pace, that aggression, that high press, and really causing them problems. But I guess the issue with Liverpool is what happens with the Cup of Nations. So even when they get the players back, I know that there's no direct clash, but what state are Salah and Mane and Keita to an extent going to be in when they get back from the Cup of Nations? I think it always takes 2 to 3 weeks at least to adjust. They'll probably get an easy draw in the last 16. And it won't be an issue, but that would be a slight concern. What condition do they come back in?
Let's have a look now at the team of the group stages, Martin. What have Who Scored come up with?
Yeah, so obviously in goal it's Georgios Athanasiadis of FC Sheriff. So he was odds on to make the team of the tournament, I think. And made more saves than any keeper in the group stages. They've had a pretty memorable campaign, haven't they? Beating Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. He made 10 saves in that 2-1 win. So he's been pivotal to them, obviously not qualifying, but to even qualify for the Europa League for them is a big success. The right back is Reece James. Only 4 appearances in the tournament, but helped keep 3 clean sheets in those games. Scored in a 4-0 win over Juventus. The centre back pairing is Liverpool favourite Sebastian Coates. He scored twice in a win over Besiktas, and Sporting, he missed 2 games as well. Sporting actually conceded 9 goals in the 2 games he missed. He's been a really important player for them since he signed, and a really sort of strong centre-back in Portugal. So good campaign for him. Alongside him is Dayo Upamecano. He's been a lot better in Europe actually than he has in the league for Bayern. He's struggled a little bit in the league since he made that move from Leipzig, but very, very decent in the Champions League. Made 2.2 interceptions per game. completed 91% of his passes, so he's been solid. The left back, unsurprisingly, João Cancelo, had a direct hand in 5 goals for Man City, scored twice and got a hat-trick of assists against Club Brugge. Right midfield, the sort of winger spots and the forward spots are really hotly contested, so there's some big players missing out. So it's actually Riyad Mahrez who gets the right wing spot in our team. He's the only City player to start every game in the tournament. Obviously, he's been not played too much in the league, but Pep obviously fancies him in the Champions League, and rightly so. He's been very good in the tournament beyond this season. Started every game, scored 5 goals. Actually made the joint most tackles of any Man City player in the group stages as well. So he just edges out the likes of Salah and Antony from Ajax, who was excellent as well. In midfield, Christopher Nkunku is probably not a surprising selection. 7 goals, including a hat-trick at Man City. Even though Leipzig went out, he had a fantastic campaign. Alongside him, Pedro Gonçalves of Sporting. He scored 4 goals, including a match-winning brace against Dortmund to help them sort of get the better of Dortmund in terms of qualifying for the knockout phase. On the left wing, just ahead of Vinicius, who I mentioned, who's been excellent in the league and in Europe, is actually Leroy Sané. 5 goals and 4 assists. So only 2 players had a direct hand in more goals in the group stages. And then the strike pairing is probably understandable. We can't really argue. Sebastian Haller, 10 goals, top scorer in the tournament. 10 goals would have been enough to be the top scorer in the entire tournament in 19 of the 29 Champions Leagues to date. So to have done that in what is his first ever Champions League campaign is pretty impressive in the group stage. And then he's partnered by Robert Lewandowski, 9 goals and 2 assists. Pretty standard practice for him. But yeah, so that's Athanasiadis of Sheriff, Reece James, Sebastian Coates, Dayot Upamecano, João Cancelo, Riyad Mahrez, Christopher Nkunku, Pedro Gonçalves, Leroy Sané, Sebastian Haller, and Robert Lewandowski.
No Mo Salah, Jonathan? Don't care. Doesn't matter.
Well, where does he fit in the 4-4-2?
Does anyone fit in a 4-4-2 would be my question.
Well, I'm looking at the back of that midfield and thinking...
I know. Oh, what I should have said, Pedro, I was slightly annoyed that he just beat him to the team, but I can't change it. Pedro Gonçalves just beat Jude Bellingham to the spot in central midfield. Bellingham just missed out. He's had an outstanding Champions League campaign, obviously.
Yeah,
been a little bit of a naughty boy this week, but came back with another good performance in the Champions League.
Yeah, well done on some of the pronunciations there as well.
I don't know if it is well done, to be honest.
Well, sounded good to me. I mean, I wouldn't have expected the Sheriff goalkeeper to have been making the Champions League.
It took me about 10 minutes to say his name, but yeah.
Yeah, we have to cut something out of the podcast now for absolute sure. Right then, let's talk about what we're here to do. None of this Champions League fancy stuff. Let's get back into the Premier League, the bread and butter of the podcast. And the first game we're looking at today is Manchester City against Wolves. Jonathan, I can't remember if we've actually spoken about him on this podcast. I do about 57 podcasts a week, so they all kind of merge into one at times. But Bernardo Silva, good little player.
He's been remarkable this season, all the more so given how close he was to leaving in the summer. I think City were quite willing to let him go. I think he was very frustrated at the lack of game time. I think he looked at the arrival of Grealish and thought, maybe my game time is going to be reduced even further. But he's probably been the best player in the league so far. And doing things I didn't really realise he could do. I mean, I obviously knew he was very good, but there's a couple of those little dribbles against Liverpool, for instance, where you sort of thought, that's a whole new level for him. So he's always had that pace, that energy, that intelligence of pass, but I think his close technical ability has really been shown off as well. And he's got a couple of key goals. So in a season when Grealish, I think, has not quite settled immediately, which I don't think is a major problem. I think that was to an extent to be expected. I think, they and when De Bruyne has been injured, they've really needed Bernardo, and he's been superb.
I think he might be the best player I've seen live in the flesh this season. I'm trying to think of another performance that I will have seen. I think he probably takes it, Bernardo Silva. But where is he in the Premier League form rankings? No one cares where he is in the Bardell in the flesh rankings. Where is he in the WhoScored Premier League form rankings, Martin?
So yeah, Pep has obviously come out, I think it was last week, and said that he is the best player in the league right now, and that he was in the 2018-19 season. And to be fair, Pep did say that season he thought he was the best player. He was voted for the PFA Player of the Season award in that season, didn't win it. Didn't get into the final 3, I don't think. But yeah, it was curious that his sort of playing time dropped after that. I think he dropped to back playing about 60% of the minutes for City in the 2 following seasons. And yeah, he's been outstanding this season. He is indeed now first in our player form rankings, I should say. He's not first in the season rankings. He's actually 4th at the moment. Mo Salah's still top of that, but he's first in our form rankings over the last 6 games. So I'll run through that. It's Reece James at 10. Lucas Moura's come in at 9. He's had a resurgence under Conte, a hell of a goal at the weekend. He's been superb, and one of those players I think we highlighted as being one who could really profit from playing under someone like Conte. So he's at 9. Mo Salah's down to 8, which is the lowest he's been all season. Emmanuel Dennis at 7. Conor Gallagher staying in there at 6. Super John McGinn now up to 5th.
Go on, John.
Yeah, he's rising. He's coming for your spot, Bernardo, but not yet. Rafinha at 4. Diogo Jota, who I believe was first last week, is down to 3. Trent Alexander-Arnold still second. He's been second for a long, long time. But yeah, Bernardo Silva top now, and he is now. Yeah, he's grown in importance, and like Jonathan said, he scored some important goals. He's now scored 7 goals this season, which equals his best season in any Premier League campaign. Only Ruben Dias and João Cancelo have played more minutes this season of outfielders. So that's the 3 Portuguese players, which is nice and timely, playing against what is essentially Club Portugal in Wolves. And we looked at it, and you can actually field what I would say is an almost passable, entirely Portuguese 11 from Wolves and Man City. I've written it down.
I don't know why I'm so surprised at that, because
if you care,
basically are Portugal light.
So I've made it. Jonathan's going to hate it, but anyway. Jose Sarr in goal. I think that's fine because he's a goalkeeper. Nelson Semedo right back. I've shoehorned in Ruben Neves at centre back alongside Ruben Dias. João Cancelo.
This team's already a mockery.
No. Hear me out. João Cancelo left back. João Moutinho and Bernardo Silva in midfield. Trincao, Daniel Podence, Pedro Neto, and Fabio Silva in the attack. So yeah, an entire 11, and obviously managed by Bruno Lage. So yeah, it's pretty mad that you can field an entire 11 of Portuguese players from.
Well, that's despite Johnny and Pedro Neto being out.
Exactly, Johnny as well. Yeah.
Can I just say how proud of yourself you looked when you were reading that team?
Thank you very much.
Your big grin on your face as you were doing that. You were very pleased. Yeah. Putting the extra work in, a bit like the tackle success rate. No one will ever remember that segment. It was
I will. I'm going to clip it up.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting, Martin. Well done, Jonathan. I mean, how do you follow that? Yeah, the fun train. How do you follow the fun train that was Martin making a Portuguese 11 out of Wolves and Man City players? Let's say Pep's got this weird thing where, kind of for long-term gain, it has the short-term thing of like shunning someone.
Yeah.
So I feel like he does that quite a lot. So Bernardo Silva last season didn't have a great time, not really in the side, in and out, and then comes back this season and he's superb. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but it feels like a very Pep thing to kind of alienate someone and then bring them back in and then be world-class.
I mean, I think you could say that with John Stones as well.
Yeah, it's happened to John Stones about 8 times. I think.
Maybe Raheem Sterling towards the end of last season.
Or now as well, yeah.
There's a time when João Cancelo couldn't get in the team.
Yeah.
It's happened again. I mean, Mahrez, when he first signed, couldn't, having been in the team initially, the end of that first season, couldn't get in. So, Gabriel Jesus keeps drifting out of favour. So that's the advantage, I guess, of having a squad of that depth. I don't think it's a case of ostracising players. I think it's just once you're out of the team, if players are playing well, it's really hard to get back in. And I guess that maintains the hunger and maintains the level in training and everything. So, I think Pep is single-minded enough to do that, and he doesn't mind annoying players. And obviously he's got the reputation and the record to do that everybody knows. Pep makes you a better player, unless you're Zlatan. Or Dmitry Vyshegrinsky. Okay, I mean, they'll have a handful, but fundamentally, Pep will make you a better footballer, and he will win you trophies, and he will get you playing great football. So he can leave you out, and if you've got a squad of 20, 25 really, really, really high class players, you can bring players in. So it's a combination of the two things, and it's a positive cycle, right? That if you're left out, it improves. If you can afford to leave out an underperforming player, then it keeps that culture of excellence going.
Yeah, I think the important thing is those players always come back and perform better than they were before they were dropped as well. It's not like any of them tend to come back and and are sulking or anything like that, they all come back and are firing. So it's obviously a really competitive nature. And City always just seem to have at least one player who's bang on it. Like they can be, De Bruyne can be out of form, and Gundogan last season, for example, and now it's Bernardo Silva, and it's been plenty of players in the past. So they've got a pretty good squad.
Yeah, I think a Grealish shun. He's coming and then he's going to come back and be absolutely incredible. That's my betting on the next one. Let's try and make sense of Wolves a little bit then, Martin. The goals have dried up again. A funny side, aren't they? I can't quite work them out. Sometimes I watch them and think they're really good. Sometimes I watch them and think, God, they're boring me to sleep.
I think this is a problem that you have when, and sometimes it's a good problem, but when your biggest goal threat is also your most creative player, it's an issue. And that's what Raul Jimenez is. Like in the 3 seasons where he hasn't picked up a serious injury, he's created the most chances for Wolves in all 3 seasons. And he needs to be on the end of those chances. But obviously that's not possible. I think that's where they're lacking. They've obviously got, I think he's almost a more intelligent striker than he is an excellent finisher. So it might even make sense to try and find a more natural finisher than him, and he can be the sort of provider. But he can play both roles, but they're missing one or the other. I think they're certainly missing creativity from central areas in particular. Pedro Neto is obviously a big miss in terms of creativity. Adama Traore, I think, in general, when he's played alongside Raul Jimenez, obviously in the past, that's been a very effective partnership, but he's dropped out of late. So whether that he can come back in and help fix those problems, but I think it is down to creativity as much as anything. I think only 2 or 3 teams have had fewer shots than Wolves this season. I think it's 1 goal in their last 4 games. So yeah, Hwang's sort of gone off the radar again a little bit. So yeah, not all clicking up front as much as they're still a very organised defensive unit, and I think that was the case under Nuno as well. But yes, Bruno Lage is sort of having the same struggles in sort of chance creation.
Here's a trivia question for you.
Oh, here we go.
Adama Traore is now 26. How many goals has he scored in senior football?
I would say, so he played for Middlesbrough in the Championship. I think he probably got the most there. So I'd say 11.
I'll go 15.
12. That's pretty good guesses. But given he got 2 away against City 2 years ago.
Yeah. He's scored against Liverpool as well, I think, hasn't he, in the past? I think
I feel familiar, yeah. But because of those 2 goals, he's sort of in my head as kind of, he's quite a useful goal threat, even though he's mainly just a dribbler. And you think, he just doesn't score at all.
No.
They got 1 goal in the last 5 games. Their XG is poor as well. So it is a very defensive team. It's like the old-fashioned team in that sense, which I think feels like something that's particularly Portuguese at the moment. If German football is all about the high press, Portuguese football is more about the low block. And so Bruno Lage has continued that. Apart from Hwang and Jimenez, nobody's got more than 1 goal this season. So that is a problem for them. But there was that sort of sense at the beginning of the season that they were playing well without getting results. But if you don't have goal scorers, that's always going to be a problem. If you can dominate midfield all you want, but at some point you have to have a cutting edge.
Does that Adama Traore question come from your quiz book, Jonathan?
No, but my quiz book is available on the Blizzard website. I think I can't remember how much it is, but it's a magnificent bargain. It's the perfect Christmas present if you're not buying my novel, which is also out by the Blizzard website at the moment.
I'll ruin it, but it's behind me, Jonathan. Look. I don't know whether you can see.
Well, is that Inventing the Pyramid?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not. That's excellent. I'm glad that.
Okay.
I'm touched.
Pied me off as normal. Standard at the Edge of the Box podcast. It's the 10th anniversary edition.
Yeah, that's the up-to-date version from 2018. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this Christmas, we got 2 of them.
Well, basically, my dad will watch this. I've completely ruined one of his Christmas presents. Happy Christmas, Dad. I got Jonathan's book for Christmas because I got told I had to buy a book.
I'd like to wish your dad a very happy Christmas. I know he's a big fan. Yeah, and I'm delighted that he's going to have that to keep him going in the new year.
I don't know whether any of this is going to actually make it into the podcast, but we'll see what Rollo does with it. Predictions then. I'm trying to find mine desperately because I always forget.
2-0 to City.
2-0 to City. I've got a feeling I've done the same. Yep, I have. 2-0, 3-2-0. Boring. Really boring. And I forgot to say what derby it was. I've thought of someone and then didn't say it. It's the Mark Kennedy derby. Niche. Good on. I can't believe that popped into my Julian Lescott. That would have Mark. I don't like Julian Lescott very much for his time at Aston Villa, so I prefer the Mark Kennedy derby. So we'll go with that. Next game that we're going to preview actually is the Steven Gerrard derby. Yeah. It's Liverpool against Aston Villa. The first point here, Jonathan, is quite an interesting one. Liverpool's progress since Steven Gerrard left. Is this Liverpool side better than any he played in?
Yeah, easily. That's not even close.
I didn't do the script. Martin did it.
It's way better. I mean, it's not Steven Gerrard's fault. I mean, yeah, Liverpool in Gerrard's time never had a player of the quality of Salah. I suppose they did have Suarez at his peak for that one season. But I still take Salah now over Suarez then, plus Mane, plus Firmino or Jota, plus Henderson. Yeah, Henderson in this kind of form, plus Van Dijk, plus Trent Alexander-Arnold, plus Andy Robertson. I mean, Gerrard would Gerrard get in this team?
Yeah, I think he would.
I was thinking, would he work under Jurgen Klopp? I think he'd be pretty darn good. Yeah,
he'd take just Henderson
physically.
Role,
he was outstanding.
Yeah. He'd be in for Henderson, but I mean,
peak Gerrard, it would be dominating in that.
He's a great player. Gerrard would get. I said, could you play Gerrard and Henderson together with Fabinho behind? Maybe you could. I don't know if that's a bit too similar, but I guess they probably do need. Yeah, one of the things that if you're being very, very critical of Liverpool, what do they slightly lack? It's goals from midfield, and Gerrard, I guess, would give them that. So maybe you could play a three of Fabinho, Henderson, and Gerrard, but that feels very harsh on Thiago or Wijnaldum or James Milner or
The best Liverpool team I thought I found with Gerrard in it was 2008.
Is that Torres when he was playing?
So Pepe Reina in goal, Arbeloa, Carragher, Hippier, Aurelio, and then it's the midfield really: Alonso, Mascherano, Gerrard, and then Coit, Torres, and Albert Riera. But yeah, you've still got a few.
Albert Riera.
I wouldn't say
iffy
duds.
Ones in there.
Not duds, but yeah, a few iffy ones. Certainly the fullbacks. I think arguably where they're sort of more improved than they've ever been. Like before that, and Liverpool's fullbacks going through their teams haven't been up to a great deal, but now they've probably got two of the best in the world, haven't they?
I heard a rumour yesterday that Wijnaldum's available on loan and could go back to Liverpool. Don't know how true that is, but is he even available? But it'd be interesting to see him go back there because he was about the best at being the goal scorer central midfielder for Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, I always felt he was the fourth out of three. He was always the bloke who fitted in when somebody else wasn't available when they were resting somebody, which I think was very unfair on him.
I always felt like he was first choice. I didn't know whether I'm wrong. One of us is wrong. Probably not.
Klopp really liked him, just in terms of what he did in knitting that sort of midfield and forward line together, I guess. He's a really weird player, Wijnaldum. He doesn't really touch the ball much at all for a midfielder, but just pops up in important positions, like you say, with important goals as well. I also looked at Liverpool's last team, Gerrard's last performance at Anfield, and that really does show how far Liverpool have come in terms of the team. You can have a little guess if you like. They lost 3-1 to Palace. Can you tell me
this?
This is 2000. What would that have been? 2015, 2014-15, I think. Yeah.
It was the year Villa knocked them out of the FA Cup when it was going to be on his birthday, wasn't it? Is that year?
Yeah, it's probably not going to be worth guessing. But their top-rated player that day was Emre Can in a back three. The wing backs were Alberto Moreno and Jordan Ibe, and Adam Lallana was the goal scorer. So yeah. They've come a long way. Ricky Lambert off the bench in that game. Jerome Sinclair. Been a decent amount of progress under Jurgen Klopp. Would
have taken me a long time to get Jerome Sinclair.
Yeah, and obviously the game after that, Gerrard's last game, they got absolutely pumped 6-1 at Stoke, didn't they? I looked at that as well, and Gerrard started that game up front. Really weird.
That can't be right.
Scored. He did. He started up front. Very strange.
I started my last ever game hockey team up front to just try and get me a goal on
Did you get the goal?
No. No, I had 3 shots, though, which is more than I had all season.
Gerrard did get his goal, so it worked. It worked in a 6-1 defeat to Stoke.
We drew 1-1, so I'd rather have that than a 6-1 defeat with me scoring.
Gerrard at Villa then, Martin.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable start, really. I think 3 wins from 4 and running Manchester City very, very close, being unlucky not to take a point. I don't think Villa fans could have asked for much more from him. He's had an impact on a lot of players. He's had an impact on the team in general. Villa's shape, Villa's pressing, Villa's organisation. I mean, everything is a lot better. Which players has he had the biggest impact on?
Well, I'm interested to know which ones you think he's had the biggest impact on. You could probably guess the sort of top rankings in terms of rating increase. That's what we've done it on. So we've done it based on their rating under Smith this season and their ratings under Gerrard this season. So who do you think's improved the most under Steven Gerrard?
The first one I'm going to go with is purely based on the fact he scored 2 goals at the weekend, because I know how WhoScored works. So I'll go Anthony Clemson must be in the top 3.
He isn't. So you don't know how WhoScored works.
Well, we've spoke previously loads of times about, but he did score in this game, so that's got his ranking up. You'd have thought a centre-back scoring 2 goals might have pulled him up a little bit.
He is. His rating's improved. He's the 6th most improved player.
Well, McGinn's going to be one because he was nowhere near the top 10.
John McGinn's top, yeah.
Mings
is 9th.
The fullbacks?
Yeah. I think that's the important one. So Matt Targett's 2nd and Matty Cash is 4th. So yeah, that's an important point to make, isn't it? Because the fullbacks were so important to Gerrard's Rangers team. Tavernier in particular just posted ridiculous numbers from right back, and Borna Barisic on the left. Really important attacking players, and certainly Matt Targett really struggled early in the season. I think Matty Cash has actually been pretty good all season. But yeah, for what it's worth, it's Jacob Ramsey. So he's improved 10 players, which isn't bad. So Jacob Ramsey's 10th, Mings, Watkins, Emi Martinez, Konza, Ashley Young, who's actually been an important player, come to the fore under Gerrard. He obviously played with him at England. I think that's helped Young's cause. Cash at 4, and the one you missed, Dan, I thought you'd say straight off the bat, Marvelous Nakamba at 3, who's been much improved. Certainly, I just think in terms of his composure on the ball, his pass accuracy and stuff like that. Previously, he's been a sort of ball winner, and he can do that, and he's done that well in the past, but he's just never looked comfortable on the ball, and he's suddenly looking comfortable on the ball. So he's been a big plus point, because I think they will still look for a midfielder, but the midfield's been particularly strong. So yeah, great start.
Who hasn't improved? That's the two we should be digging out here. Who needs to work
Douglas Luiz has gone down just because he had I thought he was probably Villa's best player early in the season. So not that he's played badly, but his rating's gone down a little bit. Who else? Emi Buendia's rating's gone down a tiny bit.
I'm surprised at.
Yeah, and Leon Bailey, and I think those are the only 3, but a very small decrease.
Yeah, but John McGinn, I don't know whether you saw the game on Sunday, Jonathan. That was John McGinn's hands down his best game in a Villa shirt ever. I thought he was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, I only saw the first half live, but I thought it was a really good game, actually. I thought the quality exciting. Was... I'm sort of increasing this season. This is drifting slightly off what we're talking about, but watching that and watching the Bayern-Dortmund game, or Dortmund-Bayern game, sort of a realisation of just how much better the Premier League is this season than every other league, the impact that COVID has had everywhere else. You're watching that game for essentially a mid-table game, and that was an incredibly high standard.
Can Villa go to Anfield and get something, Martin?
Not according to our prediction, but we do think it will be a close run thing. It has been in the past between against Liverpool under Smith. Obviously, it wasn't a close run thing when we hammered them 7-2, humbled them 7-2, I should say. But games beyond that have generally been pretty tight. We're going for a repeat of that. So we're going 2-1 Liverpool, which I think was the score in this fixture last season.
Yeah, I've gone for 2-1 as well. Worryingly, I've called Villa's last 2 results absolutely bang on. So I should have probably predicted us to draw or something, but I've gone for 2-1.
Or win, Dan. Or win is an option.
Win would have been good.
Should have predicted us to draw.
I do usually predict Villa to get something, but I'm taking the predictions league very, very seriously.
You are.
So I'm just trying to be realistic. But Villa have had some good days at Anfield not that long ago, so we'll see what happens. I do think it'll be a good game and it'll be close. Jonathan?
Going 3-1 to Liverpool.
3-1 to Liverpool. Not so close. So annoying that we've got the same scores for 2 of the games so far, Martin. Pretty annoying that. But let's open it up a little bit. Surely we can't have the same scores all the way through. It's the just a minute section. Jonathan with the first game, Brentford v Watford, and I'm going to be completely honest. I had to Google someone to make this a derby. The Richard Lee derby.
Oh yeah,
Richard Lee. Yeah.
How did you know? On Dragon's Den. He's on Dragon's Den selling baseball caps.
Let's get him on the show.
Yeah, Richard Lee will come on. Absolutely guaranteed.
I reckon he probably would, yeah.
I mean, we could have had him on to talk about Brentford-Watford. That would have probably made sense, but Jonathan's going to do it instead.
Yeah, I think Watford are actually okay. I think they're quite good. And I know they're only taking 6 points from 7 games under Ranieri, but I think there have been signs of progress. I think there have been signs of improvement. I think the really important thing is the form of Emmanuel Dennis and of Josh King. that I think Ranieri will sort out the defence in time, and if you've got 2 goal scorers plus a decent defence, you've got a chance. Ismail Sarr's out, which is obviously a problem. Also, Brentford's record against Watford is weirdly terrible. I suspect these things don't really mean a huge amount. But when Brentford beat them in May, obviously in the Championship, it was the first win over Watford since 1977 in one of 17 games. And I think that does somehow seep into the fans' consciousness, and that can transmit itself to the pitch. Brentford have had this, the wobble recently, 5 points from the last 4 games, but they had the string of defeats before that. I don't think they're playing particularly badly, but maybe just sort of the lack of class, the lack of goal scoring is showing. So I'm going to go Watford to win this 2-1.
Little quiz question for you. How many managers have Watford had since that 1977 Brentford win?
38.
No, 6,250.
I was going to say 6,000 for what it's worth.
I'd have given you that, Martin. I'd have given you that. What's WhoScored's prediction?
1-1.
1-1. I've gone for 2-2. Brentford v Watford Friday night. Martin, you've got a bit of nicknamery gone on here. All the teams in the script have got their proper name, and then Southampton are called Saints. Arsenal. It's Arsenal v Saints, Martin, and it's the Theo Walcott derby.
Alex Lacazette started at Everton. He's got 4 goals in his last 3 starts against Saints. So with Emil Smith-Rowe and now Gabriel Martinelli both doubts, he could keep his place. Aubameyang was not only dropped to the bench last time out, but left on it for longer than Eddie Nketiah at Goodison, which could suggest another problem behind the scenes. Granit Xhaka made a speedier return to action than anticipated and celebrated that return in typical fashion with a lovely card from Mike Dean. Southampton have a real problem with Alex McCarthy, as we mentioned, now injured, and Fraser Forster. So they've signed Willy Caballero this week, 40-year-old Willy Caballero, who looks like he's going to come straight in against Arsenal. They've also got Salisu and Romeu are suspended and Jan Bednarek injured. So defensively, they're there to be got at for sure. Hasenhüttl side are winless in 4 and have surrendered winning positions in 3 of those games, conceding that 98th minute equaliser last time out. They haven't won a league game away at Arsenal in 26 attempts and never in the Premier League era. While they themselves threw away a lead at Everton last week, the Gunners' form at home is very good with 16 points from the last 18 available. Those Southampton absences could prove telling. So we have gone for 2-1. I did have it as 1-1, but I changed to 2-1 based on those injuries.
I've gone exactly the same again. Annoying, Jonathan.
I've got 1-1.
1-1.
Yeah.
Would you change it based on those injuries?
Possibly, yeah, but that's the cowardly way out. And also, Arsenal just aren't very good. And also,
weird, aren't they?
Hasenhüttl's record against Arsenal is decent. I think played them 8 times and he lost 3, because I think that type of football gets in Arsenal's faces and they don't like it.
For me, it's absolute vintage Arsenal. Everton hadn't won. They lost 7 in a row or something stupid before that game. So they go to Goodison. Xhaka comes back, gets booked, and they lose. That to me, that is Arsenal. All over.
So Hasenhüttl's played them 7 times, not 8. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I've got to admit, the big Willy Caballero signing passed me by.
Didn't
know that.
I know, it passed me by as well until I had to research it.
Well done, the Just a Minute section. A win for the Just a Minute section there, I would say. Oh, Chelsea v Leeds. Struggling for a player.
Michael Dubry?
Patrick Bamford.
Michael Dubry. I like that, Jonathan. Go on.
Showing my 90s heritage.
No, I prefer Dubry, to be honest, Martin.
No, so do I. Don't get me wrong.
After suggesting that, Jonathan goes into the preview of this full of beans, full of confidence. Chelsea v Leeds, Jonathan.
But Chelsea, I think they're quite hard to get a handle on them at the minute. I mean, they've produced some really good performances, like hammering Juve 4-0. Although you do wonder how much was that about them and how much was that about Juve. And yeah, they'd gone 12 games unbeaten before that defeat to West Ham. And yet, there's that sense they weren't really playing that well. And then, obviously, the 3-3 draw against the Need this week, with a slightly weakened team, but not that weak a team, suggested that after having been so sound defensively all season, suddenly to let in 6 in 2 games is an issue. So I would assume they'll be very, as they were having after that defeat to West Brom last season, there'll be suddenly a focus again on getting the defence right. Leeds have struggled for goals all season anyway. Bamford has come back, which will help. Came off the bench and scored last week. But just as they get him and Ayling back, they lose Cooper and Phillips probably more seriously. Koch and Struijk probably also both going to miss out. Leeds are stabilising at the moment, but Chelsea, you'd think, will have too much for them. So I'm going to say 2-0 to Chelsea.
I've gone for 3-0 to Chelsea based on that Leeds defensive crisis. I think that's going to cause them problems. I've forgotten your name, Martin.
It's Martin, yeah. 3-1 we've gone for. I've also noticed how Jonathan is trying to fit in more and more words between cock and out.
Yeah, he we've got cock out, we've got Big Willie Caballera. There's all sorts going on this week's podcast. Could have had the Robert Green derby, incidentally. That would have been a bit more of that would have been a real niche one, Chelsea v Leeds, Robert Green. So did he ever play even for Chelsea? Martin, Norwich v Manchester United, the Mark Robbins derby, of course.
Yeah, Norwich's 4-game unbeaten run came to an end at Spurs last week, but the 3-0 scoreline certainly flattered Tottenham. Dean Smith will be aiming to mastermind a second win against Manchester United this season. Will surely look to emulate much of the success he had in what was his final victory as Villa boss, meaning he may well stick with a back three. But Brandon Williams is ineligible to face his parent club, so Dimitris Giannoulis will come in, and Matthias Norman could be back following injury. Having fielded a WhoScored combined 11 style lineup in midweek with Donny van der Beek as the midfield anchor, an error from the Dutchman allowed young boys to equalise, so his personal campaign for more minutes may be put on hold. Wan-Bissaka played in an entirely changed side, which only really highlighted that Rangnick isn't entirely convinced by the right back, with Diogo Dalot starting the last 2 games. In the league, Marcus Rashford scored home and away against Norwich when they last met in the top flight, but is without a goal in 7. Having scored in midweek, Mason Greenwood will be putting pressure on his spot in the 4-2-2-2 Rangnick deployed in his opening game against Palace. With Norwich only scoring 3 away goals all season, it's difficult to see an upset, even if the progress under Smith is clear to see. We've gone 2-0 United.
Bloody hell, this is a joke. I've gone 2-0 Manchester United. I'll just copy my predictions this week.
Also 2-0.
Maybe.
2-0. Jonathan, it's another Bobby Zamora derby. Brighton against Tottenham.
And there's obviously a major question mark as to whether this game's going to happen at all, with Tottenham suffering from COVID. I think they have already applied to get the game postponed, and I would assume that the Premier League will acquiesce in that. So this is in many ways a ghost preview. Doesn't matter what I say because the game's not going to happen. I think Tottenham are going to win it 8-7. And Harry Kane's going to score all 15.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, Spurs are taking 10 points in 4 games under Conte, 2 clean sheets in a row. I think they're clearly signs of progress there. Lucas Moura particularly has been playing well. They're weirdly only 2 points off 4th with the game in hand, which, given how badly things seem to be going, is a bit of a surprise. Brighton are 5 points behind them, still 9th, despite being without a win in 10. They've drawn 8 of those, but I think what is still encouraging for them is that in 7 of those 8 games, they've had the better XG. So that booing of Graham Potter, the last Brighton home game, possibly slightly misplaced. Brighton have got loads of defensive injuries, though. No Webster, no Duffy, no Dunk. Lallana, Welbeck, Trossard also out. So Tottenham to win 2-0, but I think it won't happen.
I've gone for 2-0 as well. Who scored?
I've gone for 0-0. Ball draw.
Nice, I like it. What happens?
You don't get that if it doesn't happen.
Just because I don't think it doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but surely when that game does take place, the predictions carry over and you add those points in. I mean, there'll be people who are following this podcast. They'll be like, they want to know what happens for this. This is big. This has never happened before. When that game gets played, well, the points.
Well, we'll probably have to preview it again, won't we? So we'll probably come up with new predictions.
Well, I don't think we're going to do a special podcast based on Tottenham playing Burnley, surely.
Well, they might fit into another game.
Okay,
shoehorn it into another game week. Who knows?
Fine.
Cross that bridge when we come to it. Then I mean,
people. You know, this is life and death to some people.
I know.
Not just me.
It is life and death to you. You're right. Yeah.
And people will follow it and they want to know how it works. If the rules aren't clear, the whole thing gets thrown into disarray. I will say as well, that game should be made to take place because when Villa had everyone missing, they had to field their youth team. In the FA Cup, they couldn't even play under 23 players. They had to play the full-on youth team. Make them play, Martin.
We did get a pass in the league, though, didn't we? We got some league games put back.
That's
I
true.
think that's just because it was the FA Cup.
Well, we were going to win it. We were going to win the FA Cup.
We were going to win it. We nearly did with Louis Barry. To be fair,
exactly.
We nearly did.
Yeah, Louis Barry, who now doesn't even get on the Ipswich bench, but that's a story for another day. Martin, to finish your just a minute section, we have Burnley v West Ham, Claret and Blue derby. I need a player. Throw one at me. I haven't got one. It's just going to have to just be the Claret and Blue derby.
That's lazy. That is lazy.
I'll think of one whilst you preview it.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Cool. Captain Ben Mee missed the defeat to Newcastle with a shoulder injury. He remains a big doubt. While Maxwell Cornet was forced off early on and will miss out with a quad strain. Ashley Barnes is also sidelined, so Mate Vidra and Jay Rodriguez will compete to partner Chris Wood. For a side that have failed to score in back-to-back games and are winless in 4 as it is, being without players that have contributed 50% of the team's total goals this season, not ideal. Michael Antonio scored 3 goals across West Ham's 2 victories over Burnley last season, which ended a run of 3 defeats without scoring against the Clarets. He is now without a goal in 7 starts, though, for West Ham. The real problems are at the other end. Hamstring injuries to Kurt Zouma and Ben Johnson mean they join Ogbonna on the sidelines. Vladimir Kufal and Issa Diop will come in. Aaron Cresswell should be fit to replace last week's match winner, Arthur Masuaku. Home advantage doesn't really count for much as far as Burnley are concerned, even if West Ham have lost back-to-back away games. The 2 West Ham wins in this fixture last season were the first that David Moyes had ever masterminded over Sean Dyche, failing to win 6 beforehand. And we expect this purple patch in this Claret and Blue derby to continue. So we have gone for West Ham to win 2-1.
I've gone for West Ham to win 2-0. Jonathan?
2-0 West Ham.
2-0 to West Ham. Producer tried to cheat and send me someone during that segment, the junior Stanislas Darber.
Oh, I like that.
But I'd come up with Joe Hart. He played for both, so yeah, either one of them will do. Your last game, Jonathan, you're always doing the more work. It's Palace v Everton, the Yannick Bolasie derby.
Palace, I think, have run to a bit of reality recently. After that very promising spell, the form has just wobbled 3 defeats in a row. I think where there is still encouragement for them is that if you look at an expected points table in the Premier League, they're still 6th. Brentford slightly weirdly above them. But they've only won 3 games all season and they're now only 6 points off relegation zone. So assuming Newcastle are going to improve, that does have to be a slight concern for them. A bit like Brighton, if you look at all the draws they've had, I think they've been the better team in 5 of the 7 draws. The problem recently, I think, has been the absence of James McArthur from midfield. I think he's very important in setting the tempo for them, giving them that solidity in midfield. And he's a doubt, but he may be back. Joachim Andersen also a doubt. Ward suspended for this game. Everton got the win with 2 late goals against Arsenal, which at least ended that run of 8 games without a win and has eased some of the pressure. But they are still without Calvert-Lewin, Rondon, Mina and Davis, and Dean suspended. So I've gone 1-1.
Have I got a single prediction that someone else hasn't gone the same for? I've gone 1-1 as well. Who scored?
2-2.
2-2. And I believe we've got a Sunday 2 p.m. treble, Martin.
You should know that because you're involved.
Oh, yeah, that does make sense. You did ask me to make a call, and I did that.
So our tip is, obviously, we've just all tipped for a draw in the Everton Palace game. We've tipped Everton to win or draw, which is not a massive price, but a good price, given the sort of history between these teams. Everton are actually unbeaten in 13 against Palace, and they haven't lost on any of their last 10 trips to Selhurst Park either. So Everton to win or draw is the Who Scored tip.
I've gone for Jared Bowen to score any time. Not first goal scorer this week, an any time goal scorer, Jared Bowen. Jonathan?
Did I go Leicester win, both teams to score?
You did indeed.
I'm slightly regretting that, given that Leicester now seem to have COVID and nobody's quite certain how many players they're going to have available. But if that COVID has not hit the first team squad, then given that both teams to score, I think looks good, given Leicester have got the 4th worst defence in the league this season.
Yeah, all over the place they are at the back.
And the 6th worst on XG. Newcastle kept the first clean sheet last week. And I don't know, I just sort of worry about how Newcastle reacted to that win over Burnley. That's the first win of the season, of course, you're going to celebrate it. It did just feel that there's this sort of sense of, the new age has begun, everything's fine. And I don't think it's going to be that easy. So, Leicester to win, both teams to score, but now slightly panicking because of the COVID at the King Power.
We've all gone for Leicester to win and both teams to score in our predictions, so marries up nicely. Obviously, as we mentioned, we had the 20-1 winner last week. This week, the price was 17-1, boosted to 22-1, so we pushed it a little bit further. Hopefully, we can get back-to-back wins in the treble.
And how did we do with predictions last week, Martin?
So Jonathan clawed back a little bit. 9 points for Jonathan, 7 for Who Scored, and 6 for Dan at the top. So his lead cut slightly, but it's still pretty healthy, I must say. Just 1 point between Who Scored and Jonathan. I think Dan is 6 or 7 in front.
I went a bit flamboyant last week. But, I'd had such a good week that I thought I could take some risks, and none of them really paid off at all.
But I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, each week there's been 2 or 3 games I've been 1 goal off getting the 3 points, and often getting no points as a result. So I'm not worried. It's a
for what it's worth, because I am incredibly sad. I do have a track of all of the sort of results that we've got. For what it's worth, Dan's in front in scores, but he's actually got the fewest sort of outcomes correct of all of us. He's in front based on far more correct scores than the two of us, Jonathan. So
that's the game. That is the game.
I can't see that. This is Leicester. It's going to blow up in the second half of the season.
Exactly.
No, see, it's mine. It's mine. I'm having it. You got to call the 3 pointers. They're the ones. It doesn't matter about the 1 point. It's all about the 3 points. They're the ones you want to get. It's all about the 3 points as Leicester take on Newcastle. I mean, you're right about Newcastle. I kind of felt like when they were walking around the pitch celebrating at the end of that game, it was like, that's it. This is our win for the season. Enjoy it. We'll see you again next year. Like, it's just, I don't think it's good. It's not going to be what they think it's going to be, I don't think. But to be fair, Leicester's defence, as we've all alluded to, a little bit all over the place. Is that injuries? What is it? Is it Brendan Rodgers, Martin? What's the problem?
It's a bit of both. I think Brendan Rodgers is, obviously, you can't really count his time at Celtic just because of how dominant they were in terms of his defensive record up north. But even at Liverpool, I think so he's there for 4 seasons. I think they had the 5th best defensive record in his first season. And then the 3 seasons after that, they were 8th. He actually conceded fewer goals in his first season at Leicester than any of his seasons at Liverpool. And that was when Leicester did, to be fair, that was when Leicester did have a settled defence. It was Pereira, Evans, Soyuncu and Chilwell, and that stayed pretty much intact, certainly the centre-back pairing. And that hasn't been the case for the last 2 seasons. Only Newcastle, Southampton and Palace have conceded more goals since the start of last season than Leicester. 77 goals they've conceded since the start of last season. Only Newcastle have kept fewer clean sheets. So there is a big problem there. And the problem at the moment seems to be set pieces, really poor from those against Villa. So that's certainly an area that Newcastle will look to get at. I do think Kasper Schmeichel's had a little downturn as well, not just being bitter after his little manicure problem. But yeah, I think he's had a little downturn. So defensively, they are a bit at sea. They need to fix that because they've got plenty of quality in attack, haven't they? So they just need to fix that defensive resolve issue. It's
a weird one, Kasper Schmeichel, because he actually has always been one of my favourite goalkeepers. Is it that the defence are making him nervous, Jonathan? Or is it the other way around? Or is it just a combination of them just being a shambles?
Fofana was so important for them last season to lose him being a big issue. Johnny Evans has missed a bit of early this season. He's obviously the senior presence there. So, the fact that Pereira and Justin have been out, Justin all season, Pereira did come back briefly, but then has gone again. Castagna missed a bit of the start of the season. He's had so many personnel changes. I think it's understandable. And Rodgers just does play attacking football. And I think Ndidi as well. I keep saying this, but Ndidi, beginning of last season, I thought was brilliant. And then after he got that knee injury in January, although he's only actually out for 5 games, I just don't think he's ever quite got back to the level he was at before that. So, he missed a bit of early this season. I mean, he didn't play in the United game, for instance, because of injury. Tielemans has been out recently as well, and although he's not necessarily a defensive presence, he does sort of hold his position there. So I think Rodgers does play attacking football, but fundamentally injuries have undone them.
Yeah, Europe as well, maybe they haven't been great.
Yeah, that's true.
In the Europa League from what I've seen. But another weird one, Martin, is Iheanacho. He was banging him in last season, and now he might even be behind Patson Daka. In the pecking order, but he was a good player for them last season, and him and Vardy as a 2 seemed to work pretty well from what I saw. Yeah,
well, as you'd say, he ended last season on flames, didn't he? He was very, very good. So I think maybe the Daka signing would have put his nose out of joint a little bit after the way he did end last season. Daka's basically seen as the natural successor to Vardy, isn't he? But he hasn't really had the opportunities in the league. Started against Villa, but that started brightly in that game as well, it should be said, but faded. Villa started to defend a lot better after a shaky start. So it is a curious one that he can't really get any games, certainly against Villa, because he scores every 2 minutes against Villa usually. So why he didn't play in that game, I'm not sure. But that is a good point, Dan.
Yeah, and I'm going to adapt this question slightly from the script, Jonathan. Where don't Newcastle need to strengthen?
Well, I think going forward they're fine. Callum Wilson, okay, injuries are an issue, but him plus Saint-Maximin plus Almiron plus Joelinton, who's actually started very well under Eddie Howe, I think that'll do them for now. The issue to centre back and back in midfield. And so, they've been linked with hundreds of players. Very hard to sort of sift the wheat from the chaff. I think the two really interesting ones in terms of the back in midfield are Axel Witsel, who apparently may be available, either on a free or a loan or a cut price contract, and also Florian Grillitsch from Hoffenheim, the Austrian, 26. And I think he's the sort of player who you can see coming in and sort of adapting relatively quickly. I mean, they've been linked to Agabu Kamara from Olympiacos, who does look brilliant, but he's 20 and he's only started 11 games in the Greek league. So do you want to sign him and suddenly drop him into this relegation battle? Probably not. So Witsel and Grillitsch seem to me the two, and James Tarkowski, if there's any mileage in that. But somebody with Premier League experience. But why Burnley would sell to an immediate relegation rival, I don't know. So that's where they need to strengthen, get that base at the back of midfield or centre back.
I can't be having Witsel at Newcastle, Martin. I can't have that.
Yeah. That would be it could happen. Definitely could happen. I think in this climate, in the situation that they're in. Villa were linked to him in the summer, weren't they?
He's one of my favourite midfielders, Witsel. I'd not be happy with him at St. James's
he controls games so well. So that would be massive, a massive sort of statement for them. He is. What is he, 33, 34 now? So he is aging, but they probably just do need that experience. Yeah, the other one I had in that position, there's a player they went for in the summer, was Boubacar Kamara from Marseille. And the benefit to him is he can play centre-back. He started at centre-back, has moved into defensive midfield since the start of last season. So he's another one they may look to revisit. I think he turned them down in the summer because he wasn't convinced by the project. He might be convinced by the project now, by the money now. In terms of where they're weak, they're weak in a lot of positions, as you say. Like Jonathan points out, I think they're fine in attack. They're weak in goal, but not really. A keeper. It's a thing. If I've forgotten his name, Dubravka. If Dubravka is fit, then I think he's perfectly good enough. They've been linked to Dean Henderson, haven't they? That could be an interesting one. But I think the position where they're not really linked to anyone, certainly in terms of rumours, is the wing-back position, the full-back positions. I think they're really, really weak there. They've got Matt Ritchie and either Manquillo or Jacob Murphy on the right. So personally, I think they need wing-backs. The three players that I've highlighted, in terms of centre-backs, Nat Phillips, I think, would be a great signing. I've been sort of saying that for a while now, and obviously he came back to relevance in a sort of limelight because he started in the week for Liverpool, but it hasn't been seen at all. And I think he played well for Liverpool last season when he was called upon, so I think he'd be a good signing. Surely one that they could get over the line, given how many options Liverpool have got back there now. So I think him at centre back I'd look at. Kamara, like I said, in central midfield, and a left wing back sort of out of nowhere, I'd go Filip Kostic. I think he's one of the most underrated players in Europe. And he nearly went to Lazio for only about 10 million in the summer, and that got blocked because apparently Frankfurt gave Lazio the wrong email address on deadline day. So that fell through. But he's essentially a winger that plays wing back. So maybe too attacking, but he's an exciting player and one that I think could be interesting as well.
Just because he hasn't been mentioned in this podcast, I think Chelsea should cancel Billy Gilmore's loan with Norwich and let him go to Newcastle, just for the purposes of this podcast, so we can talk about him because we haven't mentioned him this week. This is, of course, the Les Ferdinand derby, Leicester versus Newcastle. What is your prediction, Jonathan?
2-1 Leicester.
2-1 Leicester. I've gone for 3-1 Leicester. And to finish, who scored prediction?
3-2 Leicester. Like I said, all gone for a win and both teams to score. So backing Jonathan's team tip there. A win for Leicester, I should say.
Nice. Very, very good. I think that does us for this week's edition of the Edge of the Box podcast in association with Bet Victor. If you're not already subscribed to the channel with your post notifications on, then please do that. No one ever seems to listen to that because the subscribers don't seem to go up. So this week, I want to see at least one new subscriber for us. That would be nice, just to show that people do listen to the end of the podcast. Thanks to Martin and thanks to Jonathan for chatting with me as always. Enjoy all the football at the weekend and stay safe.